Hello guys, thank you for joining us at Business Hub again. In this section, we are going to be building our scenario analysis. Before we start that, I would like us to understand what a scenario analysis is all about. In financial modeling, scenario analysis is just a way of predicting what might happen to a business or investment under different situations or under different conditions. This particularly helps the business manager or the business owners to prepare for the future by testing different case studies or testing different key factors that are likely to affect the business. Things like the sales, the cost of sales, the interest rates, and the inflation rate also affect the financial result of an entity. So these are the metrics that business owners like to test to see where their business is going to in case any of these factors occur in the future. So for instance, we have been building a financial model for a product-based company, right, to test its market efficiency, or for the purpose of which is for marketing and distribution planning, right, which is the reason why we are building this model. Like I told you earlier on, you can literally build model for anything. You can build model for a particular product and see how well that product is going to be. This is particularly important because model gives you the perspective on what to expect. Yes, what to expect. It's not a kind of saying that this will actually happen, but what we are trying to say is, in certain cases, if these things happen, are we still going to be in business, or are we going out of business? So that is what we want to understand. So when you understand this concept beforehand, you realize that in the future, when those things are occurring, they won't be new to you because you have planned ahead for them. And that is why most business succeeds and others doesn't succeed, even though they are operating in the same industry and the same economy. Some succeed and some couldn't succeed. Why? Because they were not able to see the future to make effective plan. So what they are doing now is reacting to the condition instead of being proactive. So with this kind of plan, you are going to be proactive in your business decision making or in your strategic plans. So without wasting much of our time again, let's dive into the model. Now, if you look at your screen, what you're seeing, you see we have the base case scenario, which is the current condition of the business. Then we have the best case scenario, that is if there is an improvement, what are we expecting to see? Then we have the worst case scenario, say at all you don't bad, we say you don't bad, make a come back to Nigeria. Say you don't bad, we say you don't bad. What thing go happen? Are we still going to be in business, or are we going out of business? So at all now within this worst case scenario mean for here, make I speak PG more like they learn and small. At all now bad. So at the worst, what will happen? So that is why we are going to represent them with the best case, base case, and the worst case. So when you type in your scenarios like this, what you're going to do right now is to select the three of them and rename them. Come to your name box, rename them to leaks. Then we are going to have what is called a switch. Now this switch is going to allow us to be selecting from different scenario to the other. It's not when we want to change a scenario, we will now go back and start typing in best case, base case, or worst case. Now we're going to have something called switch. So that switch is going to be a number. It's just like a switch in your house where you on and off. Like you turn it on and you turn it off. So that's what this switch is going to represent. So that our switch in this case is going to be represented by values. That's by a number. So each number represents. Let me put it here so that we can see 1, 2, and 3. So each number represents a scenario. So these are the numbers we are going to be using. So now when you have these numbers like this, another thing you can do is to come here, right? Is to come here where you're seeing the 1 and rename it. You're also going to rename it. You're going to rename it. You say they call it switch, then you press enter. Right, that is our switch. So you click on it right now, you see that it's switch. Oh, okay, see what happened here. I tried to, because I was trying this out, I tried to rename this switch, but because I have already imputed the switch here, I have named this cell switch. So that is why you see immediately I type switch, I finished typing switch here, the thing moved back, because it's trying, a cell is telling me that this name already exists and this is really a cell where that can be found. So in that case, let me just leave it there. So here I'll just type the 1, right? So here I'll just type a 1. So we now have our what? We have our best case as 1, best case as 1, and we have our base case as 2 and our worst case as 3. So let's go down now. Let's go down to our inflation. So when you come down to your inflation here, let me move this a little bit forward. I want it to be a little bit closer. Okay, so I just want it to be a little bit closer to what we're doing. So when you move this, or when you type this here, now you have this, you have the best case. The base case is what we're going to link from our scenario, from our model. The model we have built, the inputs we have built on inflation. So we are going to now go to our input. When you type equal to, you go to input. We are going to now link our inflation rate. This time around is not the inflation index. What we are looking at is the inflation rate itself. It's not the inflation index. So we are going to click on inflation rate, link your inflation rate. Hope is what we linked. Let's go back again. Go to your equal to, go to your input, inflation rate, click and you fill it in to the left. Then you format it as percentage and you also format it as a link cell. All right, now we have our base case. Now this is our base case. So the question is, we are anticipating that in the future is either the economy goes better or it goes bad. So in light of this, what we are going to say, okay, if our inflation rate drops, that means it's best case. So we are going to say if the inflation rate drop by, let's say, equals to this minus, let's say, drop by 1.5%. Remember to put this percentage, 1.5%. Format this. Yes, 1.5%. Let's go format it by percentage and fill it in. So if our inflation rate drops by 1.5%, that means in our best case scenario now we have 2.8% as our inflation rate for the first year. Right now, what if the inflation rate increase by a certain percentage again? So let's go ahead and say equal to, if the inflation rate increase, that is equals to the current, that's the base inflation rate, plus, let's say it increased by 3.45%. Remember to put the percentage too. Increased by 3.5%. You can see that this is what we have. So you fill it in. So here now I will copy this. I'll just copy the format and paste. And paste the best special and paste the formats. Right, so you can see this is what it means. Now if our inflation rate increased by 3.5%, this is what our inflation rates will look like. Now if it reduced, this is what it will look like. That's from the base case to the worst case, right? This is what our inflation rate will. Now after we have done this, what else? Now this is where we are now going to say, okay, according to these conditions or these scenarios that we already have in our inflation, we are going to use a formula called choose. Now when you type equals to choose, we allow us to switch between the scenarios. You can only choose one at a time. Not any of the two can happen at the same time. One at a time. So you can say choose. When you select choose, now remember that we have what do I call it? We have renamed our cells. So we are trying to tell ourselves switch. So when you select this choose, you now tell yourself, okay, equals to choose, then switch. Our switch, which is the scenarios, which is the switch, we enter, then you say switch. You can see immediately you select switch, it will highlight the cells that contains the number. Switch between numbers. Now the index number we want to, that's the index number we want to be selecting from, which is the switch. So equal to, now what value do we want to select from? So the value we want to work in, we want to start with the base case, which is the number 1. When you have the base case, which is the number 1, then you select the cell, you select the base case, then you now select, you put equal to and select the second, and you select the worst, which is, because we have 3, you can have more because we only have 3 conditions or 3 scenarios we are looking into. So we now say close the bracket and enter. So you can see automatically it selects the best case because that is the value that is here. So what if this changes to 2? You can see it has also changed. So you can click this and drag forward. So this is now what we have. Okay, now let's look at something again. This is another thing we should be mindful of, because we are going to be using a switch again. We're going to be using a kind of a switch again to be doing this. Instead of coming back here to be imputing it by value, just have to be selecting. We will make a drop down list where we can be selecting from. All right, so now let's look at this one again. Now you can see we have this, we have already built our scenario around our inflation rate. Okay, now here you have to make sure that these things are hard coded. So you copy, sorry, I just want to do all of them at once. So you copy and paste it as values. Doesn't work on multiple cells. Okay, copy this, then you paste it as value. You can see it has removed the formula there. So copy this, copy and paste it at value. If you don't do that, the tool we want to use in Excel does not allow that. So that is why we are doing it like this. Now when we are done building this, the next thing we are going to do is to insert our selecting tab. You know the way we build data validation list in Excel. If you are not aware, if you don't know how to build data validation list or validation list in Excel, I think you have to learn it. I also take my time again to develop Excel course so that we can understand how Excel works better as a finance, because this is a very, very important aspect of your life as a corporate finance analyst or as an analyst that is into. In fact, it's important for every business to have the knowledge of Excel, at least the basics. It's important. So we are going to now go back. So after building this, after developing this scenario, you can see that this scenario is working according to, if you change it to 3, you can see how it is now changing from one scenario to the other, right? So we are now going to look at our quantity. So our quantity is tied to our revenue, because if the quantity increase, our revenue also increase. So I will just copy this whole formatting. I'm just copying the formatting. I'm not copying everything there. So I'm just copying the formatting. Oh, sorry, it's the formatting I want to copy. Control, that's format. Yeah, so that is it. So when you come to your base case for your quantity, again you go the same. Now you're going to your quantity growth rate, right? So you go to equal to input the base case, that's your quantity growth rate. So your quantity growth rate is this. Quantity growth rate is this. So you're gonna say okay, then I'll click and drag forward. So now in the best case scenario, is the directly opposite for quantity, is directly opposite the opposite of inflation rate. Now in the best case for quantity, we are saying that our quantity growth rate will increase. That's in the best case. But in inflation, we say the best case is now that our inflation rate will reduce. So you have to understand these different scenarios. Okay, so equals to, if our quantity growth rate increased by let's say 2 or 3.5%. What do we have? We have this 6.7. Now if now the quantity growth rate decline by let's say 2.5%, that means less sales. That's what it means. Less sales, sorry, inflation percentage. So you can see what we have. Our quantity, that means our sales has dropped. That's what the worst case means. So you can see we have tied this all to this. So we are now still going to do the same thing we did here. We're now going to say, okay, we need Excel to select, to choose one of the conditions. No two of the conditions can apply at the same time. One must happen. So in this case, what if our quantity increase by 3.5%, right? We have, that means everything will be 6.7% increase, right? So we are now going to say choose the same formula, choose open bracket, what is our index number? Our index number is going to be the switch, our switch, then comma, select the scenarios. You have to select the best case, the base case, and the worst case. Close the bracket and enter. You can see, then you format this, click and fill it in, then you can format it to your percentage. So because it's on the worst case, that is why we are having this on the worst case. You can see that everything is now going to be functioning at the same time. So if our inflation rate improves, our products also improve. If we are still on the we are still operating on the same level, that's the best case, everything still remains the same. But if we go back, if there is an improvement in our inflation rate, and there, of course, if there's an improvement in our inflation rate, there will also be an inflation in the quantity that people are willing to buy, right? So that is how we have built this scenario. The same thing you did here when we have to remove the formulas. You have to remove the formula, copy this and paste it as value. So that you remove the formula, you also copy this and paste it as value, so that you remove the formula. So there's no formula in it. So we're now going to use what is called a combo box in Excel. This allows us to insert some macro functions or macro functions in Excel. So if you are good with Excel macros, you can use Excel macros to actually develop an application on its own. But there's a tab which is not always visible to, it is not always visible to all Excel. In fact, it's not visible when you install your Excel application. So you just have to go and bring it out. So this is the tab, the developer tab. So the developer tab is an options that has some Excel advanced features. So if you don't have that in your Excel on your menu bar, all you need to do is to come to your files, come to your options. When you come to your options, you now look for customize ribbon. When you now look for customize ribbon, on a normal, this will not be checked. On a normal, you will not see this one checked, so you just have to check it. It will be like this, so you just have to check it. When you check it and you click your OK, it will now come up on your menu bar. Okay, that is the simplest way. That's how to bring it to that place. So having done that, when you come, what we want to insert, we want to insert a combo box that will not, instead of typing, you can use data validation to actually do this, but the combo box is more efficient. It's an advanced feature, so it's more efficient. Instead of creating what will I call it, instead of creating what do you say it is, instead of creating a list and putting a data validation on that and start selecting calling. No, instead we are going to use the combo box feature in Excel, which is under the developers tab. So if you come to your developer tab, you look for the insert. Now you have to be very, very careful, because you may mistake combo box control form control with combo box active S control. So if you use any of these, it's not going to give you the same thing. So what we are going to do right now is we are going to be using the combo box form control. You're going to use the combo box form control. So when you now come to your combo box form control, you click combo box form control, click on it, then you can click and drag it to any location of your choice. So when you do that, when you have inserted this, now the next thing you're going to do is now input these scenarios into it so that you can be able to select from it. If you click on it now, you will not see anything because there is we have not linked anything to it so that you can select from. So anytime you have it like this and you want to do any changes to it, you just right click on it. So when you right click on this, you click format control. So we are seeing input range. Our input range is going to be our list. You see the importance of the list. It's going to be our list. Make sure the spelling is correct. Then our cell link is going to be our switch. So once you're done, you just click OK. Now what happened? Why are we having this error? We're having this error because somehow, somewhere, I think there is okay, it's not an error though, because there's nothing selected. That is why we're having that. So when you select, you can see that everything has come up. When you now select, everything has come. So we have now built a scenario around our model. So we're now saying, okay, if there are changes in our economic conditions, what should happen? So what we're going to do right now is to now link our model to these scenarios we have built, so that anytime there is a changes in the scenario selected, it will also affect it, will populate in all our models, right? So now let's go back, but something will happen. Remember when I say we should remove all the formulas, because we are going to replace this formula with this link, this one with what is up here, right? So we're going to now say this one too, we replace it, copy and paste as value. Copy and paste as value. The same thing with this one, copy and paste as value. So we have removed the linking that is associated with this. So we're now going to link it in our input. So when you come back to your input where you're having the inflation rate, so the inflation rate is now going to be linked back to the scenario. So you're now going to say inflation rate is this. You can see inflation rate is this, and our model will still balance. Our model will still be intact. Balance sheet is okay. You can see our balance sheet is still okay. Something is wrong here. Why? Something is wrong here. We're going to fix that. Let's go ahead and see. Sorry. So let's go ahead and see. So we can see that we have linked this. Now this, we can now name this to say changes according to selected scenario. Now put an explanatory. Copy this to our quantity growth tool. We are going to do the same thing. So we are going to link. Now link this. Link this. Is that it? Yes, that is it. So whenever there is a change in any of these scenarios, it automatically populates. Let's see. You can see that here everything is now checked out, so we are now good to go. So if you look at it, everything now is tied to our model. So if you change this to was, this is what you have. So you can see that the figures here too will change. Everything drops drastically. So in our worst case scenario, that means at the 50 we are going to be making a lot of loss, which is 14% net loss. So we are going to look at our model balance sheet. Balance sheet is still in check. Our statement of cash flow, everything is still in check. Everything is still in order. So what we are going to do next is, let's say, copy this, right click on it. Let's say we're going to cut it out from here. Then you now come to your income statement, come somewhere here and paste it, right? You come somewhere here and paste it. So let's say this is where we want to have it. Yes, so when you select anything, this is the best case, you can see that everything has changed. Everything is also populated here. Just be looking at the nets, just be looking at this total liabilities and equity, and also this total asset. You can see the changes in each scenario. So let's go to was. You can see it has changed. If you come to this place too, you can see it has also changed. So you can see that our scenario now is now tied to everything we have been building in the financial model. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. And if you have not subscribed, like I always said, you can see that there are values coming out from this channel. We are releasing values, or we are unleashing values. We are creating values that matters, especially if you're a finance professional. It's not only that if you're a finance professional, if you're a business owner, you can sit down and develop some of these things on your own, even though you may not understand the dynamics surrounding them. But at least with what you're already seeing here, you have a perspective of how to do it. So even when you employ somebody to do it for you, you already know what the person is supposed to do. And when the person is not getting it right, you will have to question him. And I have people like that who knows everything surrounding their businesses, just that they don't have the time to do it. So when you do something that is not in line, they question you because they have the idea, it's just that they don't have the time or the knowledge required to do it. So it's a very good way to start. So if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, like and comment. Just comment anything. Give us a thumbs up, we don't care. Just give us a thumbs up or give us your best emoji. We accept anything, right? And remember that our channel is all about business, accounting, investment, ideas, how we build professionals. If you're looking for advancement in your career as a finance professional, this is a place for you to be. So if you have not subscribed again, please, this is the right time for you to subscribe also, and share, like and share to your individual groups, and make sure you return back because we have not started yet. This is not even the beginning. We have not started. When we start building models, when we start building complicated models like the one I'm working on right now, I'm cooking something very good for us. Yeah, this is one of the most difficult models you can ever find, but I'll keep you on suspense so that you must always find a reason to always return to this channel, right? So see you in the next section, and don't forget to subscribe.